We have 120 quant feared. No tank mods, so these should die really fast. Press the floss on. What do we have here? He has a delayed spawn, so let's kill Shaper first. Kill Cortex now. Cortex is dead. And nice feared. Easy. Any good drops? Over it. Gloves. Couple garbage synth items. Sample map I'm gonna show you guys of the build currently for clearing. We have around 3,000 whips, 100% delirious map, so they should be pretty tanky. Usually I use tornado shot or scourge arrow for clear. Tornado shot is much higher single target. Scourge arrow pierces everything, so the clears are better. I'm not using menace version of scourge arrow because it doesn't do enough single target. See right here, clear's still pretty good. Get the totems. Scourge arrow pierces everything. They're a little bit tanky, you can tell, because this is 100% delirious with 4,000 or no, around 3,000 whiffs, right? There's omniphobia. Pretty tanky. So you can tank most of the stuff here. You can see it's like pretty decent damage, but it's a little bit slow here, so you can swap out into T-shot. Single target will skyrocket right here. But you lose a little bit of clear because you don't have the pierce anymore. We only have 2 pierce on a tree. Otherwise, still pretty good clear if you're doing lower tier content for sure. Scourge arrows I think is the winner, just because there's unlimited pierce. But if you're doing a little bit harder stuff and you want a little bit more single target damage, tornado shot's pretty good here. So yeah, this is a 100% daily map with like around 3k whiffs or so. Clear's pretty good for the build. As far as buttons, it's just really nice. We just have mostly Ballista, honestly. Divine Blessing. Check the totems. Alright. So this is my endgame version of a Wilma's Poison Pathfinder build using the all damage can poison tincture. We completed all content in the game with this. Wave 30 Simulacrum Deathless and all the Uber bosses, we killed them all, and it's mostly a map farmer, I would say. It's best at that, but with enough damage and gear you can definitely kill all the Ubers and do a boss in content if you want. So as far as skills, the main skill we're using is Tornado Shot in our totem setup. That is our main damage dealer, especially for bossing. A couple other options are Scourge Arrow for clear. Scourge Arrow has unlimited pierce, so it is better at clearing because it just has unlimited pierce. Scourge Arrow Menace is also another option, but I felt it was much worse than Scourge Arrow because it did a lot less single target damage, and they both have unlimited pierce. And with enough attack speed, the regular Scourge Arrow is pretty strong. The last option for single target, I tested it out, is Artillery Ballista. It does give more single target, but it makes your screen a cluster. Like, you can't see anything because it's shooting like 12 arrows times 7 totems. You just can't see anything with that going on, and I didn't like it. The clear is also terrible because of the delay in projectiles landing. So I just personally felt like Tornado Shot and regular Scourge Arrow was enough for me, and I switch them depending on the content. So going over to the character, The playstyle is you just drop your totems. We have a mana forge setup that applies the curses, and we have a life gain on hit ring right here, so that also helps with our recovery. We have permanent flask, and we press this forbidden right here. The reason we have that is because my tincture gives +2 projectiles when we hit ourselves, so we cast it every 4 seconds or so. You can see arrows go from 11 to 9. Cast it, go to 11. So, like I said, the main playstyle is drop your totems, press a divine blessing every so often, lasts 15 seconds, so not too pretty comfy. Put weathering step on walk. For bossing, you probably want to take that off so you can press it when you want to wither the boss. When he changes from phase to phase, we have a steel skin for defense and flame dash for the movement skill. Last skill is Vol Haste for some burst damage on demand. And that's really the only buttons for the build because the flasks are automated. And other than the Quicksilver, they have 100% uptime. Alright, we can go over some of the stats on the build. So, as far as damage goes, even though we have 11 arrows, you do not get full overlap. So, I put 6 million DPS with 7 overlaps, so that's pretty conservative since that's -4 arrows missing, hypothetically. It's hard to tell because the arrows that actually hit the enemy change depending on the hitbox and depending on where they're shooting from, but I think 7 arrows is pretty conservative. Could be a little bit more, but I would say at minimum it's probably around here. So it's 6 million times 6 totems, so it's actually 36 million. But it's poison damage, so it ramps. It is not instant, so it's a bit deceptive because it takes a total of 4 seconds total to ramp to full max damage. So that means all the totems are shooting, and for 4 seconds they've been shooting the whole time at the enemy to get that max damage, which doesn't happen too much because they're going to probably move. But more than enough damage to kill all the Ubers. So, as far as defenses, we can see right here, we have a pretty high max hit pool. Fizz taken is our weakest. Between Taste the Hate and the Lightning Coil, we're at 77% Fizz taken as. You could bump it up more. There's options to add like Purity of Elements, change the auras, get a Watcher's Eyes with Fizz taken as there. You can also get other purities and get more Fizz taken as. There's also option to add a timeless jewel for Fizz taken as there if you want to bump up that Fizz mitigation. But that's enough for what I wanted to do, and I didn't really feel like changing the build anymore at this point. The elemental mitigation is really high because of the flasks. Chaos is pretty high because we have high chaos res. Decent life pool. Because I did not want to use a life flask for regen, I tried to stack up as much life regen as possible. Probably a bad idea, honestly. You should probably just go Master Surgeon with a life flask because it's super strong. But I played a lot of Pathfinder last league with the life flask setup, and I just didn't want to press the life flask every 10 or so seconds, so I tried to balance it out with some life gain hit and some regen. But life flask is probably the way. This is just like something I did personally to try to avoid using a life flask, but I would just recommend a life flask. Don't try this setup. As far as other defenses, we have around 16,000 evasion from the Grace. Capped reses, obviously. 100% suppression with the -3%. So between those two, we take 44% damage from spells, 100% of time. So that's pretty strong. And as far as build costs, this is about 50 divs, give or take, depending on the market. I finished up gearing probably like 3 or 4 days ago before this video, and I've been just finishing up content, making some videos of the kills and stuff. But I would say it's around 50 divs, give or take, depending on the market. Stuff is probably cheaper, some stuff might be more expensive. I crafted a lot of my gears, so it's hard to tell the actual price. But the most expensive parts are probably the Watcher's Eye here, the Thread of Hope here, Rain of Splinters. Other than that, there's nothing too crazy. Probably the belt is the most expensive item. The belt and the amulet with Fractured Dot Multi, but other than that, Nothing's too expensive. I guess the bow's not too bad either. We have a 1180 DPS elemental bow. Let's go over the gems really quickly now for the build. We are using Unbound Ailments, Vicious Proj, Deadly Ailments, GMP, Ballista Totem, and Tornado Shot as our main skill. We're swapping out to Scourge Arrow, depending on if you want more clear or not, versus single target damage. Scourge Arrow Menace is definitely an option. I would recommend that at the start, because you won't have enough attack speed for this to feel good at the start of the build. But once you get more attack speed, you can definitely swap it out. I felt like this is a nice balance between damage for single target and clear. But you can interchange between all three and see whichever one feels better for the situation. So for my auras up here in the helmet, we have Herald of Agony for poison damage and poison chance on hit. Grace, Flame Dash has the movement skill, and Malevolence for the last aura. In my quiver, in my bow, I have Despair and Temp Chains attached to Awakened Hex Touch to curse the enemies. With Mana Forge Arrow, this is automated. It shoots out frenzies, which gives us frenzy charges. So we're always on full frenzies. And Rain of Arrow of Saturation, which we use to just throw garbage everywhere. This gives us recovery from the life gain hit. So that's the only reason why we are using this. Yeah. As far as our gloves, we are using it for Divine Blessing. We are using Anger here, and we are using the Forbidden Rite like I mentioned earlier. You press that. Our tincture has +2 proj if we've been hit recently. This does 0 damage. It does 20 life loss every time you click it. Because of Wilma's, cast speed equals attack speed and onslaught from summoning totems. It's pretty smooth. You have enough cast speed that's fairly smooth to press every so often, just for the extra 2 proj. And in my boots, I got Increased Duration, Steel Skin, Withering Step, and Haste. But we're only using the Vol Haste for some burst damage. Withering Step to apply 9 Withers, I believe? Yeah, 9 Withers on bosses in particular. But when I map, I just put on Walk, just to move faster, and sometimes put Withers on strong rares or bosses, in the map. But otherwise, just for movement, I just put on Walk. In the map, when you're fighting a boss, you definitely want to turn it off, because if this is on, your flame dash does not recharge, right? And Steel Skin as a defensive skill. Go over the gear really quickly and how to craft some of the gear that I crafted. First, for the helmet, we are just using Wilma's. It gives us extra totem. It's very strong. It makes cast speed equals attack speed, so you attack pretty fast with this. And just strong helmet overall with totem builds. We got a corrupted regen right here. The shock effect doesn't do anything. The other good corruption that you can look for is the mana reservation one. You can use that and maybe fit in a different aura or something like that if you don't need poison chance, because you can get poison chance on your bow or somewhere else. So you can mess around with that if you want to try a different aura or extra aura. In the chest, it's Lightning Coil, same thing. It's just a very basic Fizz taken as, very strong. Gets our physical mitigation there. Corruptions to look for are +1 max res, flat damage, increased gem levels are okay, I guess, but not the best because we're attack-based build. Like, I think level 20 is just 120. I actually evolved this one myself, but it's not that much big difference from like a level 20, so... usually, I think probably the best mod is like 50% damage. There's an implicit that can roll for that in max res. But if you want to look for one, you can try find one. As far as the ring goes, we used a fractured elemental damage. That's really strong for us because we do all elemental damage can poison, so that's actually a big damage increase. I used Essence of Delirium, spammed it on this ring. And until we got good suffixes, after we got good suffixes, you use the beast to force suffix can't change, you use the beast to force suffixes can't change. You can save a little money there. And then you use a Veiled Chaos Orb. You craft on mana afterward. And there's a really high chance you'll get life. I think it's like 80 or 90% chance. But you unveil life and then you craft minus mana. So this build does need 2 minus mana crafts to function, because you can see the mana right here between the flask of negative 25 mana cost and the two. We only need 39 mana to sustain everything for the build. Alright, the other ring, we actually just bought this because it's really hard to roll life gain on hit with attacks and some good like mods. This is just life, chaos res, and cast speed. Cast speed equals attack speed because of Wilma's. And yeah, the implicit is completely useless, and the mana regen is also completely useless. But it's really hard to roll, so I just bought it for like 100C, and yeah, it was good enough for the build, honestly. As far as the amulet goes right here, we are using dot multi-fractured. I used the chaos essence, spammed it for a good second suffix, all attributes to fix my attributes I needed for all the gear. And then same thing with suffixes cannot change beast into unveiling life. I slammed down increased armor, completely worthless. And then I did minus or 23% attack damage here. This could also be your minus mana. You just need 2 rolls between the amulet and the rings, but I could have also crafted it here as an option. So the bow, you want to look for, at least I would say for endgame, at least a fractured T2 mod. Lightning, cold, fire, whatever you can get, whatever you can afford. I would aim for a thicket bow because it has the fastest attack speed. The second best bow is the Imperial bow because it has elemental attack damage in the implicit, but I would just get thicket, honestly. The attack speed is the best base for the build. And then you use the essence of anger, wrath, hatred, whichever one's missing. Just spam it until you get like a T3 essence in my case. And that was good enough for me. For suffixes, you just want attack speed mostly is the most important one. And whatever you can get. In this case, I got accuracy here and some cold res. But whatever you can get. There's plenty of mods you can use like poison chance, resistances, accuracy, anything you want. Nothing's important other than attack speed here. And for the quiver, we bought a dot multi-attack fractured. I spammed woe essences until we got some good mods. In this case, life, some prod speed. That helps with clear and the 2-shot clear range. Some resistance, and then I crafted on elemental damage with attacks. The base can either be this one, the attack speed, quiver base is also pretty good, and prod speed are all usable, I would say, top 3 ones. Obviously, we get additional arrow for either of these. It would be GG mod, but it's really hard to roll, and buying fractured versions, buying a fractured version of either one is like very expensive. So, as you saw in the video, we already killed all the Uber bosses. We have pretty good damage already. Not really worth it for me on a league start to spend that much. So for the gloves, it's just fracture suppression. We used life essences, spammed it, got a good res, and pretty generic gloves, honestly. Suppression and chaos.multi for the implicit mods. The boots, same thing, I think. No, actually, I think I reused fire rerolls or life rerolls until we got some good stuff. Then use the ashling to get the movement speed, and the other mods, a brick evasion, you know, a little bit of evasion. But nothing too hard to gear and craft. The implicits you could look for like a faster poison on the eater for more damage. Another option is to use the essence that gives you avoid shock damage. You can spam it on the boots. Why do you want to do avoid shock? Because between that and an implicit roll on either of the worlds for avoid ailments and the 20% you get in the tree, that would make you immune to chill, freeze, shock, the 3 main ailments. Because of taste of hate right here, you can see like my ailment avoidance is 172% because we have cannot be chilled here. It would allow you to drop this Pantheon and use a different Pantheon for the major one of these stronger ones. And yeah, you would be immune to shock. Right now I am using a Pantheon for a reduced shock effect, but that opens up some stuff. As far as the belt goes, I used essences of Delirium, I believe. Spam that, got some good suffixes. In particular, you're looking for at least 1 flask gained, or the other option is flask reduce use. You want at least 1 flask related suffix there. We hit T1 life. I slammed down a Hunter Amulet or Hunter Exalted Orb. Pretty good options there. You're gonna either probably get, I think there's only one bad mod. I think it's crit damage on flask gain on crit, alright? But the other two mods are life percent and chaos damage, and both of them work for us. And then I crafted on the mod of flask effect. As far as the flask goes, we're using Quicksilver with regen, like I said. I just wanted to avoid pressing a life flask on this build because I've played a lot of Pathfinder last league with that type of build and didn't want to press it. But Master Surgeon with a life flask is probably the best option. The other flask is some cast speed, which is attack speed for us. Triple elemental flask, of course. The minus mana right here, just to fix our mana problems, so we can afford all the skills and divine blessing with only 39 mana. Taste of Hate for tank, and the tincture. Like I said, +2 is very strong. You press it, +2 arrows with the Forbidden Rite. So finally, let's go over the tree and the jewels for the build. As far as Ascendancy, I went Master Toxicist first for damage, and then next for the Wither, and then the Flask, and then finally Nature's Boon. I would suggest to go drop this, go Master Surgeon. That's just stronger, honestly. Like I mentioned, don't want to use Life Flask. Played a lot of Pathfinder last league, but that's the better option, honestly. All right. As far as this Warden Ascendancy went, we're using tinctures on the left side. These are all dead, really not very useful. The rare ones, seeing the rares is sort of useful. Sometimes you can see the rares, so it's sometimes like nice on the mini map. But other than that, we just got more wisps here. So pathing, we went up here. Grab these cast nodes, more mastery for 10% more damage with ES, which is always going to happen against uber bosses where you actually need that damage. Watcher's Eye here is a dot multi, double dot multi. Since we don't have a bleed flask, that does save a remove bleed mod, which is pretty important. Between this jewel and this jewel for CB, we are CB and bleed immune, so you don't have to care about those ailments, which is nice quality of life. I think I bought this around 10 div, but for the longest time I was just using unaffected by bleed as my only mod on the Watcher's Eye. Maybe if you have more money, you can afford something like this. There's also options for purities for Fizz taken as. You can play around with that if you want, but that's what I used. We went life evasion cluster here, more bow here for poison chance here. As you can see, the cluster jewel is a chaos. The other option is a bow cluster with martial prowess, and I think tempered arrows or something like that for the dot multi. That's also an option. Right here we have our spike concoction for alchemist genius and some regen. There's also a life one you could get, percent life increase and more life recovery from your flask if you're using the flask, which is what I recommend. Rain of Splinters, more projectiles, always good. This is just a CB jewel. This totem cluster gives you onslaught and a little bit of defense. I would recommend defense over the offense. It feels very nice to have your totems not die instantly, so I would recommend that. Faster poisons in this mastery, got more poison chance there, some life. This jewel is that which was taken. We are getting our phasing here, conk ground, because we hit so much. There's always conk ground everywhere. Adds a little bit for the regen. Some recoup when the totems take damage, and withered. Just get whatever mods you can get. Like I said, there's a bunch of mods that work for the build, but nothing's like crazy, like the best mod by far. So just get what you can get that can be used for the build, honestly. One up here, we are using the Curse Mastery here for some poison chance, and Whispers of Doom for +1 curse. You can see Suppression node right here. This Thread of Hope, the large one, very strong. Look at it's giving us Pierce, +2 Proj. Aspect Eagle, just really good. Attack speed, damage, accuracy, really strong. Suppression, move speed, Elemental Res, damage, 24%, 50% here, elemental damage, just extremely strong and high value. So I would recommend this for any version of poison bow. A frenzy charge here, some accuracy and attack speed, but just accuracy mostly to fill out the accuracy needs for the build. Life, another poison node. Totem, it feels a lot better with the 30% chance to summon 2, especially for uber bosses and if you're speed clearing, because you're going to constantly resummon your totems. So it just feels really nice. One flask node, I felt like this one is a lot stronger than this one as far as the sustain of flask. So you got this suppression, life mastery. Maven here just to show you the endgame DPS for this build. We turn on our flask right here. Damage is pretty good. Drop in the middle. So the brain dies pretty fast because of the overlap. It has a big hitbox, right? Pretty easy. Pretty tanky, so we don't really have to dodge any of these moves, honestly. Alright, the next phases are pretty fast since we have wall haste now for this phase. So one annoying part about totem builds is your totems will die to every single move. That's just how totem builds are. So you're gonna have to resummon your totems quite a lot for uber bosses, because if they ever get hit, they're probably gonna die in one shot. Other thing about totem builds you have to watch out for is some moves will detonate on your totems and they have AoE, say her Maven Fireball, Exarch Ball Phase. That will just detonate the totems, and if you're not careful, you could die because of that.
Do what I say. Stand still.
She's here. So we can't fully tank that. Tank most of like that thing will detonate on your totems. When you're close to your totems, the AoE will hit you. But it's a pretty easy fight on totems, honestly. The playstyle is pretty nice. Just drop totems near the boss. Let them go to work. Okay, the easy pattern. Damn, the easy pattern. Said the totems die very easily. Pretty good damage though. Pretty good damage. What do we get? Ooh, awakened. Ooh, the armor.